When you say George Melly, a lot of images come to mind. And one of the images that came to mind for me was one of him in drag as Bessie Smith, which I'd seen in the colour supplement, and I knew that must be part of the painting. The part of the painting which is George singing. Obviously I have been to Ronnie Scott's and all over the place and experienced him on the stage singing. Funny, sexy, camp, everything. And this extraordinary voice that seems to be coming out of him better and better as the years go on. And the figure, the persona of George in the portrait that he and I referred to as the Professor came about completely by accident, because I'd gone to his house the night before we were to start work, and he produced from the wardrobe these extraordinary robes with this kind of floppy Rembrandt hat that went with them, and they were his robes as a fellow, I think, of John Moores Liverpool University. And when he'd been given them, made the honorary fellow, they were bright emerald green, and then in the wardrobe over the course of time they'd gone a very dingy brown. And then when he produced them that hot summer's night, they'd gone these wonderful shades of russet. So he said, he held them up in the air and said, "I don't know if you want to use these, Mag." And I said, "Oh, well, we'll bring them along and see." But they just fitted the thing. Because obviously it was very difficult to choose just 3 versions, if you like, of George, because he's so many things, you know. Performer, singer, broadcaster, writer, lecturer, fisherman, so many things, but I chose just 3. If you take a photograph, it's the record of the light and shade at the moment of the camera clicking, which is different from painting from life, drawing from life, which obviously goes on over a period of time, and so it's a collection of many moments of response, many moments of observation, which all have to be brought together into one moment, which is the work of art. When I paint a portrait, I try to empty myself completely so that I become a channel for the truth of the person that I'm painting to come through me onto the canvas, into the drawing, into the bronze. So I try to just be a channel so that the truth of the person can come through. And what you have to do it with is the paint, and so for me it's very important there's some life to the paint, because that's, and the way the paint goes on, because that's how you're going to make that person alive on a piece of canvas. And each time I try to paint an eye, it has to be as if I've never painted an eye before in my life, or a nostril. So everything is particular, particular, particular. It must never be generalized. You know, there aren't any formulas, there aren't any answers. Each time you do it, it's jumping in at the deep end. And the thing is to be, as Brancusi said, it wasn't difficult to make a work of art. The difficulty lay in being in the right state to do it. Tricky. When I painted George, I mean, I wanted George to be there in the painting. That's what I'm talking about, making that person alive on the canvas, moving through the canvas, there for a second and gone, but there for a second again. Well, there are obviously 3 hats. Bessie's beaded cap, George's fedora as a singer, and the Rembrandt hat as the Professor. There is another hat, because a black bowler hat is sailing through the sky on the Magritte tide. There are a couple of fishing flies attached to the brim of the George the Singer's hat, which you might not notice at first. There are a number of eyes, obviously the 6 eyes of George. The eye in a ring on the camp hand, which he always wears. And I saw the buttons on Bessie's high heels and the buttons on George's spat that you could see when he's the singer are sort of floating away, like 2 pairs of eyes at the bottom of the picture. And there's another eye within the Rembrandt hat. I mean, the eye being, well, not only what an artist uses all the time, but a big symbol of the surrealism that George is always associated with. And he was very impressed with my painting of feathers. I don't think I'd ever painted feathers before. But he said, you imagine the studio of Rembrandt or something, and they'd say, oh, give Maggie a ring to do the feathers. He was very impressed with the way I painted the feathers. George was really there. You know, the best people are the ones that are really there. And it is very tiring to sit, even if you're just sitting on a chair. It's tiring to sit, it's tiring to work, and you are making the thing together. And the body language of somebody, how they get up, when they laugh, what they do in the breaks, all that is part of the whole thing. So George was fascinated. But he watched it grow. And I mean, that's fine. I always say to people, they can have a look and we have a break if they want to, as long as they don't say anything, which I realise must be quite difficult for them at moments, but they're not allowed to say anything.